Well, hi everybody. Today in our reading, we're introduced to Jonah. Now, Jonah is different. The other dreamers, you get the feeling, even Moses, who was so reluctant to go and do the thing that God had called him to do, to live that significant life, he was so reluctant. Abraham, he stepped out, didn't know exactly what God was calling, but he stepped out in obedience. And yeah, we see him get discouraged and make a ton of mistakes along the way. Joseph, yes, he thought it was all about himself and all of that needed correction. But all of them it seemed like they stepped out into what God had called them to do. Jonah was the exact opposite. And for some of us, Jonah, in the context of being a dreamer, is a fantastic story. Because some of us believe that we've disqualified ourselves from having a relationship with God, disqualified ourselves from having dreams of God. We've perhaps made choices that were suboptimal. We find ourselves, as a result of our choices, in a place where we would say, nope, the dreams of God couldn't possibly come true in my life. I understand that. Jonah would understand that. In fact, as you read through the story of Jonah, you get the idea that Jonah is constantly asking God, why do you care so much about the people of Nineveh? They're awful people. You know the story. God says to Jonah, go to Nineveh. Jonah says, no thank you, I'll go to Tarshish. And on his way to Tarshish, God literally wrestles him back into the path that he had for him. And so Jonah's asking, why do you care so much about Nineveh? They're awful, awful people. They have been disqualified from the love of God. Let them go, God. Let's go find a different people. Let's go to Tarshish. They're much better. Nineveh is awful. And yet, when I read the story of Jonah, the question that keeps coming back, particularly in my reading today, the question that keeps coming back to me is, God, why not give up on Jonah? Jonah's awful. He's disqualified himself. Look at him. He's disobedient. Let him go. You need a better recruiting team, God. You made a mistake. Jonah, no, of course you don't make any mistakes, but Jonah's awful. Let him go. Let's pick someone else. And yet, God's love it persists. That's the word I'm looking for. Persists past our own disqualifications. It really does. And that's what we see in the life of Jonah. And that's what we see in the lives of the people of Nineveh. God's love persists past our disqualifications. In fact, that's why Jesus went on the cross. He went on the cross because we were sinful, fallen short of the glory of God, disqualified from a relationship with God, disqualified therefore from any of the dreams of God. And yet, God's love persists. Some of us need to hear that today because we believe that we, and this is true, are the sum of our choices. It's true. Logically, that's true. We are the sum of our choices. The choices that we've made put us where we are today. And we say, well, I've thoroughly messed it up, or I've thoroughly worked myself into a mediocre life. This is my life. There's no turning around. And yet, Jonah's story is the story that we need to hear because God turns that story around despite Jonah. The people of Nineveh, God turns their story around despite Nineveh. So my question to you is this: how much does God's love persist in your life? How much does He care about you? How far would He go to chase after you, to put in your heart God dreams? If you think about that, I believe what it will do is it will resurrect God dreams in your hearts. It will give you once again the desire to say, God, I don't care about prominence. That's not what I'm after. But I care about significance. I want to be significant for you. I want to make a difference. And so I encourage you to take a few minutes this morning, even as you're reading Jonah's story, to allow it to resurrect in your heart once again a reminder of how much God loves you, and therefore how much He's willing to persist past your disqualifications. And if you ever have a doubt, close your eyes rather, and bring to your mind the picture of the cross. And on that cross, Jesus, beaten, bruised, taking upon Himself the sin of the world, He was thinking about you and I. And when He said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do," He was talking about all of our disqualifications. And when He said, "It is finished," He was removing from us the stain of our sin, all that disqualifies us from a relationship with God, all that caused us to fall short of the glory of God, giving us once again a path for a relationship with God. And so as I say this, as I've been saying for the past few days, I hope you have a dream-filled day, once again resurrecting in you the ability and the desire to dream God dreams. Thank you.